Welcome to another episode of the Jim Roman Show, where we talk about how to build a better business to build a better life. I'm your host, Jim Roman, and welcome. In this episode, we'll be talking about strategic goal setting, or what we've been talking about is strategic planning. It is the final part of our series. If you've been joining us this month, we have been helping you to prime your mind for the coming year. We've been talking about strategic goal setting or strategic planning. And today we're going to put all the pieces together as promised. We're going to be going over the previous episodes and what we've covered and helping you to actually finish your strategic plan. I have a special treat at the end of the episode. I'll be using actual live case studies and helping you put this knowledge to practice. So let's jump into it. So today we're going to be talking about strategic goal setting or strategic planning and the pieces and parts that go into that plan. So if you know about the plan, there are three parts to it. The first part of a strategic plan or goal setting is understanding what drives business success. And I will recap those drivers to your success. The second part of the plan is knowing your numbers, your needs, wants, and desires. This is a big piece of the puzzle that a lot of people miss. And today I'm going to go into that a little bit deeper than I have in previous episodes. And then the final piece of the plan is your waypoints or milestones, something that we covered in our last session. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? How do you run a marathon one step at a time? How do you reach your business goals one waypoint or milestone at a time? So let's jump into, again, creating your plan. If you're joining us for the first time, what I ask you to do is to take notes. As I go through this process of creating your plan, finalizing your plan for the future, I want you to actually implement what we're talking about. A lot of this is a recap from our previous episodes. If you want to go into any one of these elements, feel free to go back and check those episodes out. Otherwise, welcome to the recap of our entire series. So the first driver to doing goal setting, strategic goal setting, and strategic planning is understanding why do you do what you do. This time of the year, I always reflect on my many blessings that I have and remind myself, why do I do what I do? My purpose and passion. This is one of the key drivers to success. And I find so often, from owners of companies all the way down to the team members, a lot of times people lost touch with their purpose and passion or never really had a purpose and passion behind their product and service. Some of the questions that I'd be asking to uncover and discover or reconnect with my purpose and passion is, why do I do what I do and what difference do I want to make in the world? As a business coach and consultant, the difference I want to make is I want to help people build better businesses so they can have better lives. So what does that mean? So often people use time and money as excuses to not have a life, or sometimes money and no time is getting in the way of them not having a life or success. And so as a business advisor, mentor, or guide, I want to be able to help make business a lot easier so that you can make your life a lot easier. So that's my purpose on the planet. Another example I shared with a previous episode is working with a realtor, and her purpose and passion was to help people buy homes. Because she looked at them not just as a house, but a home. And that this is one of their biggest financial decisions, and she wanted to help facilitate and make that easier. But ultimately, her purpose and passion behind her profession as a realtor was to help people take that house into a home to raise their family. Family was very important to her, and having a home for that family was just as important. And when she could reconnect to her purpose and passion in that particular profession, it made the biggest difference. Another example of purpose and passion is in the property management industry. I work with a lot of property managers around the country. And some of my clients would say that their purpose and passion is to help investors not have to worry about their investments so they can go on living the life that they want to live. We'll take care of the headaches. We'll worry about managing the issues. You go and just enjoy your life. I actually have a client. Their purpose is to remove all the headaches of managing your investments so that you can enjoy the fruits of those investments. So this is the time of the year I would be counting my many blessings, but reconnecting to what drives my success. And one of those key drivers is knowing your purpose and passion, your why. Another driver to that success we've talked about in previous episodes is what? What does your business need to look like, feel like, to act like, to ultimately have the life that you want? What kind of business do you want? Do you want to be a solopreneur? Do you want to have a lifestyle business? Or do you want to have a business that employs people and impacts the lives around them? You get to choose. You have a blank canvas. You can paint the picture of whatever you want. For example, I shared a story about a hearing and speech therapist client of mine years ago was reflecting on her business and what she wanted to look like. And what made this this speech therapist different was when her patients were kids typically, and they would get a cochlear implant so they can hear. And when you get a cochlear implant, it takes a lot of adjusting for that child to get used to it. And she felt that the parents needed to be a part of that recovery. And so she wanted a business that was big enough that had a training division to teach people. There was a parent division to help the parents with their kids. And then there was the patient side of it where she actually did her practice. And so she painted this picture where she would have her clients work with their parents to be able to teach them things that they could learn from. And so she painted a bigger picture where some people, remember a graphic design marketing person that a client of mine, she wanted to have a lifestyle business. She didn't want it to be big. She just wanted to make enough money to live in towards her retirement and just enjoy creating content for her clients. And she was super happy with that lifestyle business. So my question that I would be asking you, whether you own the company or work for the company, what kind of business do you want? What kind of position do you want? What does it need to look like, act like, feel like to be able to make that happen? The third driver is, where do you want to be beyond the business? You now know why you do what you do, your purpose and passion. You know what kind of business and what kind of size company you want. Where do you want to be beyond that business? What are you going to do for fun that we would call dreams and aspirations or life goals? It's amazing how many people lose touch with what drives them in their success and not connect to their drivers of why, what, and where. And so part of the strategic planning process now and anytime in the course of the year, these are the kind of questions I'm asking. Where do I want to be beyond the business? I've shared in previous episode as well that one of my long-term goals is to go to Italy so that I can sit at a roadside restaurant, have some wine and cheese, and just enjoy that experience. That's a long-term goal. Short term, I want to be able to have that Italian experience at least once a quarter at my favorite restaurant, my favorite Italian restaurant, or Italian restaurants around the country when I'm traveling. I love Italian food. I also like wine and steak, just so you know. So to recap the first part of that plan, we want to ask ourselves, why do we do what we do? What difference do we want to make in the world? And remind ourselves of that. What type of business do we want? What size business do we want? What difference do we want that business to make? And then ultimately that gives you the time and money to go where you want to go beyond the business, your dreams and aspirations, short term as well as long term. The other two drivers in those 5 drivers that I referenced in previous episodes is, when do you want that and what are some of the waypoints? The waypoints we'll talk about later. When is ultimately, when do you want to have the life you've always dreamt of? Someday or now? Given what's gone on in the world these days, I don't know that I want to wait too far into the future to live and enjoy the fruits of my labors. So when do I want that? I want that as soon as possible. And that's where a business coach, business advisor, and mentor comes in helping to achieve those goals. I've said so often, don't be a Lone Ranger, because Lone Ranger had Tonto and Silver. Who do you have helping you to be successful now, not later? I find so often people want to go it alone, try to figure it out on their own. And I was that way once before, where I wanted to be able to, do it on my own, to improve myself. But I realized real quickly that by having a mentor, having a guide to help me along the way, can make the biggest difference. So the first part of the plan, again, in previous episodes that we talked about, are the 5 drivers. Those 5 drivers could be found in our Start Here program at jimromanonline.com under programs, and click on the Start Here program and you can get that for free. But essentially it talks about why, what, where do you want to be, when do you want that to be, and then ultimately the waypoints, milestones that you need to achieve. And we'll talk about that later with a little special bonus added on. So let's talk about the second part of your plan. Second part of your plan is the math, knowing your numbers. And a lot of times people skip over the numbers because they don't want to know your numbers. Whether people don't do their taxes because they don't have money to pay their taxes, or they don't know their numbers because they're afraid that they're not making money. And I want to take a moment to talk about this, truly talk about this, and be honest with you, totally vulnerable. Years ago, many, many years ago, I got to a point where I did not do my taxes for 2 years. Now, I didn't do my first year of taxes because I knew I made money and I would have gotten money back. But I didn't do my year 2 because I was afraid I didn't make money. By the time I got to the third year, I knew I had to do something or I was going to get in trouble. So I reached out to a CPA friend of mine at the time and I said, can you please help me get my taxes done? Because I really, really need to get them done so I don't get in trouble. So I went over to her condo. We worked through receipt after receipt after receipt after receipt. And in the end, I ended up owing money. And I couldn't be happier. In fact, I went, woohoo, I owe money. And she, being a CPA, goes, why are you super excited? And I got to think about it. Well, I actually realized that I thought I was going to lose money, knowing that I owed money. In other words, I didn't realize at that very moment I was tying my success to not knowing my numbers and knowing my numbers. What do I mean by that? I thought in my mind, because I wasn't making money in my business, I was a loser. That is far from the truth. Just because you're not making money in your business does not make you a failure, doesn't make you a loser. There are two separate conversations. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was delaying that. I had a client of mine who hadn't done their taxes, and I told them this story and I helped them get their taxes done. But my point of this is knowing your numbers is critical. It's critical. Get somebody to help you with that. Because it's not about whether you're successful or unsuccessful. It just means if you're profitable or not profitable. I always say not knowing your numbers is like playing golf without keeping score. You might be having fun, but you don't know where you're going. So what kind of numbers do you want to know? One, and first and foremost, I want to know my profit and loss statement. I want to know if I'm profitable, and more importantly, can I pay myself? One of the biggest challenges that people fail to do is to pay themselves. I'm reading a new book I've shared in previous episodes called Zigzag. And in Zigzag, they talk about getting to profitability as fast as possible. Whether you own a business or work for a business, being profitable, being able to pay your bills is critical. It takes one of the key stresses off of our life. And so I want to be able to figure out my profit and loss of my business, profit and loss of my family, profit and loss of my life, to let myself know, can I pay myself? And if I can't pay myself, maybe that's the next step, the next waypoint, the next milestone that I need to achieve is to pay myself. What's it going to take? From there, the next set of numbers I want to know is what is it going to cost to hire somebody, whether it's a virtual assistant, an independent contractor, or an actual employee to help me get the work done. I find that so often people can't get through the stages of business because they're too busy trying to bring the business in and not be able to get the work done, or they're getting the work done, but they don't have the time to bring the business in and they get stuck there. I'm going to talk about that later specifically. So if I know how much it's going to take for me to pay myself to relieve that pressure, then I should be asking myself how much is it going to take me to be able to pay for a virtual assistant, an independent contractor, a virtual assistant, employee, and stuff like that. Because I find that you can hire someone for as little as $250 a week, $250 a week. And then finally, the last set of math that I want to know is, now we talked about my needs and my wants or my desires. How much revenue do I need to be able to have the cash flow to have it all, to include giving back to the world, giving back to my community, but also be able to pay for technology, pay for processes to put in place, whether it's a scheduling software, a coaching software, whether it is a time management software. So often we don't do the math because we're afraid that it's a reflection of we're successful or failures, whether good or bad. And I say knowing your numbers has nothing to do with per se your success as much as it is are you bringing enough business in on a regular, consistent basis? And then the final piece of the plan that I really want to talk about today is your waypoints, those milestones that we talked about in the last episode. So if I want to be able to look at my waypoints, my milestones, what do we mean by that? Again, you can look at the previous episode on that subject, but milestones typically are a place in your plan you want to achieve. Using the 5 drivers toolkit, one of the things I ask people, given where you are today on this side of this gap, if you will, where do you want to be in the future? So if you're here today and you want to be here in the future, what's the next step, the next level do you need to take your business to get you to where you want to go? Right? For example, for some of you, again, you might need to be able to bring in more business to be able to pay yourself. Or maybe you're at a point where you're paying yourself, but you now need people. And so your next waypoint, milestone, or action needs to be able to bring enough business in to hire someone to help you get work done. And for others, it is to be able to put processes in place so that it frees up your time. So that is essentially a recap of the business planning process, strategic planning process. And it's a quick overview but I highly recommend you go back to the previous episodes to talk about that, to review that, to study that. So again, I want to recap this once more, just for training purposes. And then I really want to go into the special section today to actually give you examples applying these principles. I believe applied knowledge makes the biggest difference. So if you've taken the time this time of the year to ask yourself your why, your purpose and passion, you're one step closer to success. You then ask yourself, what do you want your business to look like, feel like, act like? You're one more step closer to success. Then asking you, where do you want to be beyond the business? What are your dreams and aspirations? Those you used to have, you wish you have, you hope to have one day. Then ask you, when do you want that happen? Now or in the future? I say sooner than later. And then if I start to figure out those bite-sized steps I need to take, those waypoints, those milestones, whether it's having more profit, getting more people to perform, or putting processes in to free me up from the business so I can do what I want to do for the world. Now it's applying those principles. So what I want to do now is share with you some of the examples, and I think this is going to be important. And I'm going to do each example. I'm going to pause in each example to give you time to think about it. So example number one of helping people go through the 9 stages of business. So people don't necessarily realize that there are 9 stages of business. Most people think there's only 2 stages, broke and really broke, or have no life, or have somewhat of a life. But there's actually 9 stages of business ownership. The early stages, the business owns you. The later stages, you own it. And I want more of you owning it than it owning you. So let's give you an example from some of the feedback that I've gotten from you in the past. Say I am a IT company, and say I'm doing $680,000 of revenue. And again, this can work at any level, but this is an actual example of someone we were working with years ago, an IT company, doing about $680,000 in revenue, wanting to get to $1 million or more, and couldn't figure it out on their own what was getting in the way. So my team of coaches came in, we did an assessment of the whole organization, and we identified a couple of things that probably are happening to you. We first identified that in this IT company, the owner did not have time to bring in more business because he was too busy doing the IT work of the business. I'll say that again, maybe you have this, that you need to bring in more business, but you're too busy trying to get the business done. In this case, IT work. He kept on being pulled into the IT part of the company, and he had IT people. He had level 1, level 2, level 3 techs, but they just weren't getting the work done at the level he needed to, and it kept on distracting him, pulling him away from bringing in business. So the first thing that we did with him, again, this works with any size, is we start figuring out how much more business does he need to bring in on a regular, consistent basis to achieve his goals. So if he's at 680,000, he wants to get to 700 or 800 or $1 million, or you're at $100,000 in revenue, you want to go to $200,000 in revenue, what do you need to do to be able to do that? So we did the math, we did the numbers, we figured out what he needed to do on a regular, consistent basis. And what we determined, get this, he needed to do 3 proposals a week. If he did 3 proposals a week, he could then have the profit to do all the things that he wanted to do. And that's huge, because most people don't know the number of presentations, appointments, or in this case, proposals they need to do on a weekly, monthly basis. And so how do you know you're going to hit your numbers? At the end of the month, you're probably saying, wow, that was a hard month. I don't know why I didn't hit my numbers. Because you probably didn't have enough presentations, appointments, and in this case, proposals. So then once we figured out he needed 3 proposals, the question is now, how does he get 3 proposals done? How does he get enough leads to have the opportunity to put together proposals? And I said, that's another issue for another time. First was to figure out what that was. The second thing was to figure out why his people were not performing. There's a team of a number of people in the company, and so need to figure out what's not performing. And we found out there were 2 gaps or 2 bottlenecks. One, how the phone calls were handled, i.e. how the request for IT work was being handled, and who actually did the work. Now that's a whole nother conversation. I don't want to go too far into the details, but we needed to figure out if we brought in more business, how are we going to get it done this time so it didn't hold the owner back from bringing in more business. You get that? We figured out what we need to do to bring in business, but we also figured out at the same time how we're going to get it done the moment we bring it in, so the owner would not get pulled in that direction, so that he or she, in this case, could go and bring in more business and somebody else get the work done. I'll give you another example using this for a smaller company. Let's say a realtor, real estate company. We worked with a lot of real estate companies over the years, a lot of realtors over the years, and they're really good at bringing the business in, but they can't get the work done. Or mortgage people are good at bringing the business in, and they're not able to get the work done. The reason being is that the realtor or the mortgage person in this case is trying to bring it in and get it done, bring it in and get it done, and they can never get the momentum that they need because they're having that up and down effect. So my question to you is, are you bringing enough business, and are you doing all the work to get it done? A lot of times we work with realtors to get them a transaction coordinator or a sales assistant, depending on their personality. For some realtors and some mortgage people, they need a sales assistant, helping them to manage their pipeline while they're getting the work done. Or in the mortgage case, they needed someone to get the work done so it doesn't get in the way of them bringing the business in. This is one of the reasons why people don't get to where they want to go, and they can't figure it out because they're doing it on their own. And this is where a coach, a guide, a mentor, an advisor can see the forest from the trees. So let me ask you, what's getting in the way of you going to the next level? Whether it's going from micro to millions, from not having a life to having a life. Post in the comments below. We'd love to hear about that. Please email me at questions@askjimroman.com. We'd love to know your story. Here's another example that I want to talk about. Another example of waypoints, milestones, implementing this principle is we were working with a property management company. And in this property management company, the challenge that we uncovered and discovered is that their team of people, 5 in particular, did not have their particular positions planned out. What do I mean by that? When you're growing a company, you hire people as you go along to get the work done, and you grow some more and you hire some more. And eventually you have a corporate culture of it's a chip-in mentality. All due respect, a chip-in mentality may get you where you are today, but a chip-in mentality will not get you where you want to go. It just won't. It will burn you out, put you out of business in a lot of cases. So what we did in this property management case, and a lot of other industries that we do this with, is we divisionized and departmentalized their business. We divisionized and departmentalized the business. Again, in your Start Here package, we talked about the 5 functions of a business, and it talks specifically about that. But in this particular case, since you're with me today, let me tell you what we did. A lot of times in the property management industry, they ask you, should you be departmentalized, role-wise, division-wise? And I would say it depends on your personality, what type of manager you are. I like a hybrid of all of those. So what we do is we departmentalize this particular business. We would have 3 to 2 property managers in place. If I was a realtor, I might have a buyer's agent and a listing agent and a transaction coordinator to departmentalize and divisionize my business. In the IT business, I might have a level 1 tech, a level 2 tech, a level 3 tech, and a projects tech, because I want to be able to departmentalize and divisionize my business. You can learn more about this in the book E-Myth by Michael Gerber. He talks about how to franchise your business like, give it a franchise-like experience. So again, back to the property management business, if for me and I were them, I would want to departmentalize or divisionize my business with some combination of that, where I would have 3 property managers managing a certain number of doors. And I find that the average property manager can manage 250 doors, residential properties, 250 doors with some support. I would also add on to that I might have inspection services, get an inspection services to either help me with my move-in inspections or move-out inspections, or my renewal inspections. That's a whole nother conversation. I would have some type of leasing assistance, whether I'm using a leasing software, a leasing person, or someone who has a leasing function to assist those property managers in getting the work done. Now, I've seen where the property manager's done the listing and the leasing and get the property management done, and that's fine, but then that could be challenging in scaling that business to the next level. My point of this is that when you look about what you want your business to look like, a lot of times people don't look at the departments or the divisions underneath those 5 functions, those high-level leaders. The people who are going to get the work done, freeing you up to do what you want to do. And the chip-in mentality only gets you so far, only gets you so far. So I would be thinking about departmentalizing and divisionizing my business. Another example would be anyone. This is for anyone who wants to go to the next level. So I talked about industries like IT, property management, real estate, and mortgages. I talked about scenarios, trying to bring in business while getting the work done. And I talked about departmentalizing, divisionizing your business. But some of you out there who are watching here today or listening to this in the future are saying, Jim, that's fine, but I'm just one person. Or Jim, I don't plan to be bigger, that big. What can I do today? Well, one of the best ways that you can do, regardless of what size and what position you hold, is to be better at managing your time and your life. We like to talk about managing your energy. What I would be doing if it were me, I would make sure I had a blocked calendar or a blocked schedule. What is that? This is an idea pulled from several books. The book 7-Minute Difference by Allison Lewis, The Power of Full Engagement by Jim Lohr, and 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Where the principles of all these books put together, they say when you focus on one thing for a given time, the odds of you achieving it are extremely high. Number 2, multitasking is really not a thing. They prove scientifically that multitasking is really switch tasking, and it's ineffective. Meaning, if you're working on one task 10% of the time, and another task 10%, and 10%, and 10%, you're not getting anything done 100%. And so if you can block your time, create a routine, you're going to be more successful in achieving your goals and objectives. An example of this, I'm told, is if you have kids. How many people out there have kids? I'm told that if kids having routine is a good thing. Again, I'm told if your kids have a routine, it's good for everybody. Well, guess what? Adults should have routines as well. Because if you have a routine and it's more predictable, you will be more productive. What do I mean by block calendar? What I'm suggesting is at least once a week, if not 3 times a week, you're blocking something out to get work done. An example would be, say you wanted to bring in more business. I was working with a life insurance gentleman a long time ago. He kept on hitting the wall, couldn't get past his goals. Then I said, tell me your schedule, show me your schedule. And I could see based on his schedule, he was all over the map. And I said to Lee, if it were me and I were you, I might suggest that you do bringing in business activities Monday and Tuesdays, and then all the administrative stuff Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Why? Because if he starts off the week bringing in business Monday and Tuesday, the week won't get away from him and him not having time to do that. Well, I'm happy to share with you, a month later, I ran into Lee and I said, Lee, how's your block calendar? He says, it's going great, Jim. Let me tell you what I did. I took your advice, but I took it to the next level. I figured if I do bring in business Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'd have enough momentum that I would be able to not have to worry about bringing the business. And that's exactly what happened. Not only did he hit his goals, he earned himself his own office at his life insurance company because he figured out what worked for him. For some of you, like me, back in the day when I was managing multiple businesses, I needed time for me. So for some of you, it's just blocking time for you. I'll give you several examples of that. For me, I would stress out come Thursday, Friday, and stress into the weekend back in the day. And I was wondering why I was stressing out. And one of the reasons I was stressing out, I wasn't getting all my work done by the end of the week. So come Saturday, I was working on the weekends. And I'm like, I'm not the type of person to work weekends, so I need to solve this. So what I did is I blocked out Thursday mornings from 6 to 10 a.m., Thursday mornings, what I call do whatever I wanted to do time. Nothing got scheduled in, 0. And I used that to do whatever I wanted to do time. I blocked it out every single week. And guess what? My productivity, my profitability went through the roof because I knew at every time of the week, Thursday mornings, I get to do whatever I needed to do, especially what I didn't get to, what was worrying me, what was stressing me, so that by the weekend, it was done and I could relax. I've shared that story with many people and I've seen people implement this. I'll give you another example. I was working with a realtor and we were trying to grow her business. And she says, Jim, I can't figure out why I can't grow like I did last year. So I said to this person, what did you do last year that you're not doing this year? And she says, nothing. Well, nothing. I go, what was that? Nothing. Well, I used to get my nails done. And I said, well, great, let's get your nails done. She goes, well, I don't have time for that. I said, well, as your coach, we're going to make time for that. You're going to go get your nails done. So she ended up getting her nails done every Wednesday morning. I follow up with her a month or so later. And I said, hey, I see your numbers are up. What's changed? She says, well, I did what you told me to do. And I forgot 2 months later what I had her do. She said, I went and got my nails done. I go, tell me more. She says, I realized it wasn't about getting my nails done as much as it gave me a time to work on my business, to think about my business. I was like, what do you mean? She says, well, I'm getting my nails done. I can't touch my phone. I can't pick up my phone. I can't talk to anybody on my phone. And so I just sit there and I just think about my business. And I realized I haven't worked on my business strategically in such a long time that gave me that time to do that. And lo and behold, her business grew. Last example, working with a gentleman who owned a chain of cellular phone stores in Virginia. And I told him the story. And so he went and ended up doing coffee every Wednesday morning for himself. He would go to a local coffee shop, read the newspaper, and just enjoy that. He said, my business grew, but I don't believe it was because of that. He then jokingly said, it's the only thing that I changed, but it's still not that. In other words, he didn't want me to get the credit. But you know what? I'm okay with that. What we realized is that he wasn't taking any time for himself. At home, he had all the family stuff he had to worry about. When he was at work, he had all that work stuff he had to work on. He never did anything for himself. And so that every Wednesday morning, you can find this guy drinking his coffee at this local coffee shop, reading the paper, giving time to himself. And that is what we're talking about, creating routines that help you help other people. So I want to thank you for joining me on this journey of strategic planning, strategic goal setting, and hopefully you've gotten something out of this series. If not, please go back to other episodes and listen to those episodes and do the assignments. Because ultimately, I really want you to build a better business, to build a better life. And the way to do that is by implementing the principles that we're teaching you. Knowing your 5 drivers, the drivers to success. Knowing your numbers makes a big, big difference. And ultimately achieving your goals one bite at a time, one step at a time, one waypoint at a time. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. Just go and do it. Get some support, get some help. Don't do this alone whatsoever. I want to thank you for joining us during this series. I look forward to seeing you in the new year. We have new things planned for you. Again, my name is Jim Roman. The more you know, the more we grow.